learned that in acting. I was amateur actor at one time in my life. At one time in my life. And one of the things I learned very, very well, was very important, was to ad-lib. It didn't make any difference whether you made a mistake. What mattered was how fast you were able to recover. Because there's a curious thing about mistakes, and I know a lot of people, they base their self-esteem on trying some idea of perfection. People will ignore the mistakes if you don't give them any attention and just immediately make a correction. We could be talking here and I could do something like that and keep on talking about what I'm talking about and go on about more things about self-esteem, and everybody's forgotten that I dropped a stick. People will not pay attention to the mistakes if you don't. Right? You just recover and go on like nothing happened. And to the degree that you can kind of practice with that in your mind or some other way, you become not afraid of making mistakes, because that does not become the measure of your self-esteem. So now we come into this. Self-esteem is your perception of yourself in relation to other people. Now, there are people who also have self-esteem problems in relation to dogs and cats and other animals, but we're going to concern ourselves mostly with people. It's your relation to other people in certain circumstances. Now, what's really good for you to know yourself is, what is your measure? How are you measuring how good you allow yourself to feel about yourself? Because that's what it becomes. Is there anybody out there, up there, down there, anywhere, who's telling you how to feel about yourself? Oh, some people may do it, but that's just their opinion. It's whether you listen to that and how you apply it to yourself, that really counts. Okay? It's your self-esteem. You can base it on, your measurement might be whether people smile at you. Your measurement might be whether people do things for you. Your measurement might be whether you make mistakes or not, what you have decided is a mistake. Your measurement can be all kinds of things. Being aware of what your measurement, how do you measure how good you feel about yourself, how good you allow yourself to feel. People talk about unconditional love. And they talk it like this is a wonderful thing to have for everybody. I don't agree with that. I know there are people in the world that I definitely am not going to have any unconditional love for. Okay? And that's fine with me. Okay? But if you want to learn unconditional love, and I do my best to apply it this way, start with yourself. Start with yourself. There's no point in trying to do unconditional love with other people until you've got it mastered in relation to yourself. And there's something for several lifetimes. Okay? So try it out. Hey, how does this stuff really work? Begin with yourself. That's sort of, in a way you could say it's a shortcut to self-esteem. Don't ever question your own worth, your own value. That's harder than it sounds, but that's the way to get there instantly. But these measures we talk about, the things we have that tell us whether, that we tell ourselves as to whether we're good or worthy or deserving or any of that stuff, a lot of people would tell you it comes from your beliefs about yourself. Well, I'm going to modify that slightly to make it more practical, because here's the way we teach things, and this is very effective. Beliefs equal rules. And changing rules changes beliefs. So let's talk about beliefs as rules for a moment. Everything you believe about anything, and especially yourself, is really just a rule that you've made up. Now, you may have made that up based on what you've heard from other people as you grew up, based on what people are saying or have said, based on your interpretation of things, but it's basically a rule. That's what a belief is. Even when you believe something with your whole heart and soul, it's because you have a rule that says that's true. The person next to you might not have the same rule. You might be totally convinced, but you're totally convinced because you have made a rule and you do not question it. That's what total conviction is. When you look at these things, all these beliefs you have about yourself and about life and about people and everything, when you look at them as rules that you've made up, then you have the option of keeping the rules or changing the rules. And it's much, much easier than trying to deal with something as difficult to understand as a belief. Because that's a kind of a vague term. Okay? But when you can interpret that as a rule, oh, okay, well, I have a rule about myself that says when I do such and such, my self-esteem has to lower. You can change the rule. There used to be a rule, just tell you this, a lot of rules that we use in society, there used to be a rule that heavier than air craft could not fly. And among others, the Wright brothers decided they were not going to follow that rule. And they found a way to make it happen anyway. If they had accepted that rule, which science said was truth, then we wouldn't have, a lot of you wouldn't be here today. Okay? And I wouldn't be able to teach all over the world. Okay? There was a rule not too many years ago that said no one can run a mile faster than 4 minutes. Or less than 4 minutes, okay? And a man named Roger Bannister decided not to accept that rule. Now here's the interesting thing. It was considered physiologically impossible, okay? And then he did it anyway. Now you have to do that to qualify. Okay? How things have changed. Okay? And it's all because some people thought that these were not beliefs that had to be true, but rules that could be changed. The rules you have about yourself are what are giving you the self-esteem you have today. Nothing else. Got nothing to do with your behavior, your goodness, whether the universe loves you or not. It has to do with the rules you have made. When you change the rules, you are changing beliefs, because it's the same thing.